Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show. You know, like everybody, my name is Kevin McDonald, and this is Positive Talk. And John Barrico is with me, and he's my co-host. We have to figure out a better name to call you. I don't know what that is yet, but we'll figure it out. But now here's. Go ahead.
You've come up with every time you seem to introduce me in different ways. So, co-host is fine, or
collaborator, or
whatever.
A guy that just happened to wander into a studio near me.
Yeah, there we go. That's probably more like it. You know, just the guy with the big mouth who won't shut up. That works out fine.
No, that's me. I can't have two big mouths anyway. But anyway,
well,
John,
like I've said, you know, we both belong to the same, support group for people who talk too much. It's on and on and on.
Yes, which is why this works for me so darn well. But I gotta ask you. So now you've seen what I do most days of the week, and so now are you tired yet?
I am tired, yes, but I'm also excited because this is really a fun project overall. I mean, we're doing important work out here, Kevin. We're bringing positive messages. We're telling positive stories. We're helping to bring light to people's darkness. We're bringing people to the forefront and bringing attention to folks who are doing really good and cool things in the world. And I think especially now, I mean, we've always needed it, but especially now, we really need these stories. And so I am just delighted to be a part of this whole thing. And so, yeah, I'm tired, but at the same time, I'm energized by what we're doing.
I'm glad. I'm really, honestly, I'm very glad because this is so much fun. I just enjoy it to death. And I wanted to mention this because the person we're going to bring on next, who's also a regular contributor of the show, and get this, she's telling me that like 3 weeks or a month ago on Facebook, she had 200 followers. And now it's come to light that after she made some changes and put Positive Talk there and stuff. Well, I'll let you introduce her, and then I'll let her tell you what's happening with her Facebook.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, she's been here longer than I have. Brichelle, come on, welcome. So
Hi.
Great. I love when we get to work together.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it so much fun? This is my family. As I've said before, I got my grandpa Kevin and John, aka Uncle Fluffy Fuzz. And I love everything about being here. So I will continue to come. Don't get sick of me yet.
Tell us about your Facebook page.
Yes.
So here about 3 weeks ago today, I had 206 followers. For the last few years, it was just people I know, my friends, family, things like that. And then all of a sudden, they came to a point where I changed some things around, made it more of a business page because that's the only social media I have is my Facebook. And so I went on there. I put all the links to Positive Talk. I put myself and my label, is if you will, and every single day since then, I've gotten at least 100 friend requests from all over around the world. And if I were to complete all the ones I still haven't done up until this point, including the ones I have confirmed people at least, it would be 1,600 roughly. And that happened in 3 weeks. So I remember calling Kevin, like, is this normal? Did somebody like expose me or something? Hopefully all good things. And I don't know if there's anybody in the world who's experienced that, but I've worked in marketing and social media and stuff like that for a long time. So not only is it the first time I've seen it, but it happened to me. So if any of you listening are the ones blowing me up on Facebook, thank you and I love you, but please slow down.
And I just would like to mention, if you want to find out more about Burchell, you can go to Facebook. What is your name or your handle? That's what we used to call it. We don't have the CB.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
What's your handle?
Brichelle HG just on Facebook. And that's BRICHELLE, just like Michelle, but BR, and then it's HG. So you can find me there.
Well, it's awesome to have you here, and thank you for participating with us. By the way, you can always go to positivetalkradio.net. We have our entire 900 episodes. I think it's 902 now, that are housed there, as well as you can find out more about us, and you can email us to talk to us and talk about bringing guests on that you like and stuff. And John, tell them what they've won. No, tell them that how many people are we touching these days on a monthly basis?
You know the numbers fluctuate, but we are up there between 1.6 and 1.7 million listeners every month. And I tell you, I think it's fantastic. People are catching on. They realize that what we're doing is important, and they're getting some enjoyment out of it. And we're starting to hear from people, listeners who got great things to say and say, keep on doing this. And so we're going to keep doing this.
Yes, we are. God
And the
willing.
reason was because we get the opportunity to bring on some really, really great guests who are doing some really cool things.
Hey, you know what? I think we have one of those on today, don't we?
Oh, I think
I
maybe
think
we
he
have.
did.
So I have to ask this question, Kevin. People come to us from all different directions. How did our guests come to us today?
I have no earthly idea.
Well, that works too. Well, I'm eager to talk to Micah Blake. He is.
What the hell was that?
He started the music.
More music.
Oh gosh, that's just amazing. Anyway, go ahead and we'll ask Micah himself how he found us and all that kind of good stuff.
Sounds great. Micah,
How you guys doing?
Hi, Micah.
Good. How are you
Thanks
doing?
for joining us.
And
Thank you for having me on.
I'm looking for a producer because apparently I suck at it. So if you can find, if you can,
He's got too many windows open. He's just hitting the wrong buttons all over the place.
It's like most of our minds. We have about 8 things going on. We have to focus
these
on
tabs.
the one.
You have only 8? I don't know.
On a good day.
Hey, Micah, welcome to our show. We're so happy to have you, and you do some really interesting stuff. And I can't wait to get into it and learn more about what you're doing. Music is such an important element in so many of our lives, and I see you've got ukuleles and other instruments behind you. I can't quite see everything that's there, but let's chat a little bit. And so, to ask the question that we started to ask, how did you find our show?
Originally I found it just through different podcasts. I'm always trying to search for ones that are giving a positive message, because I've been through a lot of things in my life, and each of those stages I always come to the same conclusion, that the more negativity I can not focus on and the positivity I can focus on is going to always bring me in the right direction. And really, that's where I found this podcast. So I reached out through, I think it was Podmatch.
it was Podmatch indeed. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to, if you're a podcaster and you need guests, it's a common complaint. Everybody says, I need guests. I don't have any guests. Podmatch is a great place to go to, because they match up guests with podcasters and vice versa and stuff. So go there. It's podmatch.com. And you can find out more about them. But Micah, seeing what they do, John, I don't know if you've experienced yet, but what they do is they have they match people that they think would be really good for your show. And so Micah fits
Kevin,
that.
that's actually where I first found you.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
Or did you first find me? I don't remember how that worked, but I think I found you and I saw Positive Talk Radio and I was, this is really cool. And I think I reached out to you and you said, hey, come on the show. And the rest is history.
that's right. And Micah, could tell our audience, because you've got those pieces of wood behind you that have got strings
Mhm.
attached to them. Would you explain to everybody what those are?
So those specifically are ukuleles. And over the last 6 months, we've been working through a group course where we call it the sip and strum. It's kind of like a paint
it.
and sip, if you've ever been to one of those,
Yes.
where we do a
yes.
whole group of people who have never touched an instrument before. And we sit down with them and work through this in a fun, relaxed way so that we can all, by the end, play a couple of songs together, which is amazing because a lot of these people didn't even believe they could do music before. And by the end, and a couple of drinks, whether lattes or something stronger, they find that, confidence and relaxation in order to actually discover something new about themselves. And usually that discovery is really just taking down limiting beliefs that were keeping them from doing what they want to do. So
where are you doing these sip and strums?
So a few different places. There's a bunch of places locally in North Carolina that I've done at like different events, but I'm always limited by my one person. I would like to make it, more people available to do it. So I do some online. You can find that right at my website, speakingmusic.online. We'll do that live. And I also have a free course that you can just go through on your own, but that's not as fun because it's best to do it with other people, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And then
involved.
I've been working with some colleges to actually set up some ukulele clubs because they're always looking for ways to, create more communities that are inclusive. And I don't think there's really any more inclusive than, sitting together and playing ukuleles. So
Are you familiar with, as maybe you're a little younger, so this may be beyond your years, but are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of George Harrison?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank God. Oh. I was going to go, jump off a bridge there a minute ago. So,
a couple of years ago, Starbucks had those special gift cards that had Paul McCartney on them, and so they were pretty popular, and people were always like trying to find them, and my wife was trying to find them, and she. And the local Starbucks had it, and so she went in. She goes, "Oh, good, you've got this now." And she goes, "Yeah, everybody keeps wanting that. Who is that guy?" And she says, "It's Paul McCartney." And she goes, "Oh, wasn't he in a band or something?" Like, oh,
yes, sweetheart, he was.
So about 10 years ago, when my children were little, about 15 years ago now, Paul McCartney came to town and he played, and he did a tribute to George Harrison. And don't worry, there's a point here that I'm making. And I'm not just rambling to ramble, but
it's intentional rambling.
It's intentional. And he said one of the things that they would always do is they would always go to, when they went to George Harrison House, they would have dinner, they would have, a cocktail or a couple, and then they would, he would break out the ukuleles. And there would be fight. Can you imagine having people like Steve Miller and Paul McCartney and George Harrison and a bunch of these guys sitting around playing the ukulele, singing something or different songs like that? So it really is a community activity, isn't it?
It is. And it strips away a lot of the complications that, as musicians, we always want to learn more things, and sometimes we overcomplicate them. And that really strips us away from, it makes a bigger gap between people who don't know and people who do. And I just feel like the ukulele of all instruments really limits that gap so that everyone's just kind of doing the same playing field. It's almost like a rhythm instrument, more exclusively than anything else. But it has enough of you can get complicated as much as you want, but mostly it just ties everyone together, which I love.
It has such a unique sound to it as
Mm.
well. It's kind of it's a light and fun sound. You can't hear a ukulele and feel depressed.
Yeah, it's the epitome of the beach vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you remember a gal that she was on Grace Vanderwall? Did you ever hear that name?
I don't think so. No.
She was on the America's Got Talent. She won it, and she played the ukulele. She was like 12 years old, and
I know who you're talking about now.
yeah. Rochelle, do you know who I'm talking about?
It sounds super familiar, but I watched so many ridiculous amounts of those episodes and videos that it's right over my head, Kevin.
She won the Golden Buzzer, and because she did a
Yes,
song.
I know who you're talking about. Yes, I know who you're talking about. It made me cry, actually. I watched the video on Facebook and it made me cry.
And that was the first time that I'd heard anybody do the ukulele in like years. Before, the only one before that was a gentleman who did "Over the Rainbow" and was in.
Oh yeah,
and I can't remember
in
his
Hawaii.
name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Israel or Isaiah? I think something like that.
I think it's Isaiah. Yeah, I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember his
It's
name.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's no longer with us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No.
He's singing in the heavens now.
He did a great
Mhm.
job. He did a great job with that
Yeah, it's
rendition
beautiful.
of Over the Rainbow.
And we
And
do have to take a break here in just a moment, Micah. But before we go, I want to give you a question to think about for when we come back.
Okay.
Do you remember the exact moment in your head where you decided that this is something that you wanted to do and nothing was going to stop you? So just think about that because I'm really
Ooh.
curious.
Okay.
And we're talking with Micah Blake of Speaking.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Kevin McDonald and friends. John Verico is here. Rochelle's here. Micah Blake is here. And I need to hire a producer. I've just discovered that because I just cut John off, and I apologize, sir.
That's okay. I was saying you're listening to Positive Talk Radio, and we're speaking with Micah Blake of SpeakingMusic.online.
And I unceremoniously kicked him off and stuff. So if you are a producer and can work within my budget, which, by the way, there isn't one, but we can come up with something. Kevin at KMmedia.pro.
we never want the show to come across too polished.
And we're good at that.
We are very good at that. We keep it raw around here.
So, Micah, Rochelle asked you a wonderful question. Rochelle, would you reiterate briefly the question, because I'd love to get into this.
Of course, yeah. My question for you, Micah, was do you remember the exact moment where you had the idea of making this happen first come into play in your mind? And was it like, were you scared, or was it something that's like, no matter what it takes, I'm going to do this?
Well, that's a great question, by the way, because looking back, there's so many different moments that shape, your path. And, there was moments in high school where music really saved me. I just really found peace and relaxation in playing and learning it, especially piano at the time. And so that was something that I was like, okay, this is something special. This is something for me that I need to keep with me. But it was kind of in the background for a long time. And then I started teaching people, and I was also performing at the same time, a whole bunch of different stuff. Kids were born. I was working full time, crazy time of my life. And then I was managing at a manufacturing place at this one time. And at that moment, there was some stuff happened in my department that I was managing, and they gave me a warning. Whatever it was, that happens to the managers, I'll take the blame. But the next week, for some reason, they gave me another warning for the same thing that happened the week before. I don't know if they forgot or something like that. And they were like, I want you to think about this over the weekend, which is not really a great thing to tell a person like me, or a musician anyway. And I had about 10 students at the moment. And I was like, I had this manufacturing job that was paying my bills mostly. And then I had these 10 to 12 students. And I was like, well, obviously, they mean way more to me than anything that I do at this job. And it was kind of a realization that, oh, well, this is really what I'm good at, what I'm passionate about, is teaching people and helping them find a lot of that spark inside of them through music, and through, for me, teaching music specifically. And so I gave them my 2 weeks notice after that, and I found another part-time job to hold me over until I had enough students to do it full time. But it was really that realization that, oh, really think about it. And I was like, yeah, I don't actually care about this. I want to do music because this is what matters in the world, more than I think we were putting optics on glass for some really, really expensive companies. But that's all it was, It makes our devices work, but it doesn't really fill anyone's soul, that's for sure.
There's such an epiphany when you get to that point in life, or when the universe does something to provide you an opportunity for what your real purpose is. And with music brings such joy, and also, it is such an emotional outlet for us, even as a species. Music has always been part of our culture, all the way back to the cave days, of just making music from the simplest of instruments. Why do you think that music is so good for the soul? I didn't mean to make this a deep question, but it just dawned on me. The music means so much.
Frequency, John.
So there's a few things about music that I think are very unique, especially for playing music. I think it's for music in a whole, but specifically playing. It's something that actually does tie the three things of our life together. Our mind, because you do have to think about it in order to create good music, no matter how long you've done it. There's a side of that. And then your soul is a way of communication that is kind of only expressed, I feel like, through music. And then your body, you're actually moving and getting into it, which, if you've done any type of yoga or anything like that, there's a huge connection between spirituality and moving your body in certain ways. And that is something that music ties it all together.
Does disco dancing count for that?
No.
It's personalized for each person.
But Mike, I got to ask you, and this is a very important question, because when you got written up, and then you got written up again for the same thing a week later, you must have thought to yourself, they're trying to tell me something and to perhaps get rid of me. And then you gave them a 2-week notice. Did you do what I would have done, which is give them a 2-week notice and say, I'm out the door now. Here are your damn keys. Have a great day. See you later.
No, actually, I was.
You have integrity. I'm sorry.
I'm more like I was young and scared at the time. I gave them 2 weeks, but then I think I also gave them another week after that, just because I was like, I didn't hate them or anything, especially some of my immediate managers, and I was going to say, hey, if I get an extra week of pay, that gives me an extra week of breathing room. But I think it was just literally stuff happens in manufacturing and they got to point it at someone, and stuff happened 2 weeks in a row and they're like, oh, let's point at the same person again. I like to have all my ducks in a row, and I knew that they hadn't been messed up 2 weeks in a row.
Micah, did you ever go back and thank them for giving you this opportunity to pursue your passion?
No, but about 3 or 4 months afterwards, I still had most of their contact info. And I was like, hey, everything's going great. Anyone want piano lessons? And I just sent a company-wide email. I didn't get any, but I figured I might as well try.
Well done.
That's
So,
awesome.
so you are a music teacher, and what instruments, by and large, do you teach?
I teach what people need. I'm a music theory major, so I know how a lot of it works, whether or not I'm a master at it. Piano is my main one. I love piano, keys, synthesizer. And then guitar, I had to learn that next because people wanted to learn that next. Most things with strings, I'm pretty proficient at if you give me a little bit of time. And then I really like some weird instruments like the ocarina, the hand harp. I have a drum that's called a space drum or hang drum. It's kind of like the opposite of a steel drum because it's, instead of convex, it's concave, and you play it with your hands.
Yes.
And I don't
I've seen
teach
those.
that
I never
one
knew
yet
what they were.
'cause
I've never known what they were called, but I've seen them.
they're
Yeah.
beautiful sounding, very
Yes.
ethereal.
So I find it incredible that you learned how to play guitar because people wanted to learn how to play guitar, and you wanted to be able to teach them. So you learned it well enough to be able to teach it in a pretty short time.
Yes. So think of it as like Kevin, you and John, you love to talk, right? So if you were going to teach someone, if you're going to teach someone how to do a presentation at a very specific niche, you don't need to know every single thing about that niche. You guys know how to talk. You know how to help them be comfortable. You know, like 80% of what they need to do. And then you have to put in the little details of that niche. So it's similar in music. There's a lot of overarching things that I know about music. And in order to plug that into an instrument, it doesn't take half as long as learning it from scratch if you didn't know anything about music. But it also, I've learned the shortcuts of learning instruments.
Theory. Okay. I was going to say, because understanding music theory and all of that is one thing, but I mean, there's a very, very different skill set in the way you move your fingers on the neck of a guitar than the way you play the keys of a piano. I mean, the sequence of notes and how the music flows together and all of that, but it's still very different skill sets to use your hands in very, very different ways than this versus this.
Yes. I did already play mandolin at that point.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, for our audio listeners, I was faking playing the piano and then doing air guitar. So that's what this versus this was. For those of you who were not seeing the video version of this, and they're going, what the heck is he doing?
He did a much better job with the piano than he did with the air guitar, too, by the way.
I'm just saying. And I played the guitar, and I don't play the piano, so.
You should see his air drums. I'm sure they're amazing.
Indeed. So you decided you wanted to be a teacher rather than to become a rock star. How did that happen?
2 kids.
Those things anyway.
Someone is actually asking me that just a little while ago. They were like, "Oh, if you weren't doing this or that, what would you have probably done?" I was like, well, I guess I probably would have been a rock star. And they just died laughing. They just didn't even believe me. And I was like, no, like I probably would have. But the lifestyle and all of that, just I obviously wasn't going to mesh with the way my life was going. I was 21 and then 22 when I had my 2 kids. And my wife does play with me. She plays bass.
Oh.
But now that they're 14 and 15, we're actually getting more and more into music, playing more stuff. They
Little
they
family
do
band going on?
beginner stuff. Yeah, we'll see where it ends up going. Mostly
could
it's
be the
still just,
second
you know,
coming
for
of
the
the-
fun of it.
You could be the second coming of the Cowsills, which is the real band behind the Partridge Family.
Partridge Family. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it's cool too
So-
because you kind of are a rock star. You're just a rock star dad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
If I can be that for them, that's really all that matters.
Yes, and
That's
for those
awesome.
of you that are listening to this, it really is not very fair that he's going to have 2 kids in college before he's even 40, and he looks 25. It's just not fair. Yeah. So are the kids starting to get interested in music?
Yes, actually, this last year specifically, they've gone from, you know, learning a little bit about it to learning a ton. My daughter, who probably when she was 9-ish, wanted to learn guitar, but her hands were just tiny at that time, like extremely small. So I was like, well, if you really want guitar, let's learn the baritone ukulele because it's tuned exactly the same way, but it's much smaller than a guitar. So she started learning that, and then she learned some guitar. But now that I'm teaching ukulele classes, they actually both do that. They're kind of like my helpers. If I only have 10 people, I do it by myself. And if I have 20 or 30, I need some help just because of the chaos of everyone in the room. So they help that out. But my son, he grabbed a banjulele, which is a banjo tuned in the same size as a ukulele, and he just loves that. So
Wow.
he's really enjoying that.
That's got to
And,
be a cool instrument.
It is, and it's so much. Banjos are a little bit tricky to play the way that they're tuned. But if you're just playing the same exact as a ukulele, then all of a sudden it's very simple, and you have that really unique sound, you know, which people love or hate, but he loves it.
And by the way, if you're looking for an incredible singer to join your little band, I know one that could really participate with you. Do you know anybody like that, Michelle?
Is that your favorite singing?
Yeah, I love to sing and I love to dance. I was just telling Kevin before we had our morning meeting this morning, and he had told me, okay, here's the plan. We got this going on. We have these interviews. We have this show. And he's like, hey, this is a musician guy. And I was like, oh, cool. That would be awesome. He's like, you think you want to be on that? And I was like, it's funny that you say that because last night I had something hit me where it was kind of just like, I thought I want to
I did
record a
too. It
dance
was
where
my
I want
wife.
to. Yeah. I had a moment where I was like, I think I want to choreograph a dance. I'm sitting here and I'm watching videos on my phone. I'm thinking about how bad my back hurts and I just ate like 25 pounds of food. And how can I help myself feel better without working out or cleaning the walls because there's nothing else in here to clean. And I decided, no, I'm going to choreograph a dance. And then I was done with the dance. And I thought, wait, I have a poem I can make a song out of. And I'm actually currently working on that. I wrote it when I was probably in like beginning of junior high, and I want to make a song out of it. But I've been singing and dancing since inside my mom. Like, I think that
Yep.
was one of the things I was born to do. I love working with people doing both those things. So it's inspiring, especially since you finally were like, you know what, like this is something I really want to do. I'm passionate. I'm able to help people because I couldn't imagine how many people maybe do get frustrated at times, and then all of a sudden they're like, "I got it." You know? Do you see a lot of people have that little light bulb go off and it just fills you up and
Oh,
reminds you why
everyone
you do
does.
this? Yeah, that's
Everyone.
awesome.
Now, I do have a question for you, though. It's amazing that you're writing your own songs, especially. And what mental hurdles did you have to go through in order to say to yourself that you could do that? Because that is a really big blockage that many people have when, you know, people who have played for years and years and years are like, well, I can't write music. I just I just play it. So I'm curious, have you had any issues with that?
I want you to save your answer, Michelle, for the after the break, which we're going to take right now. Great. Do you want to co-host? No, I'm just kidding. We'll
I know. I'm not.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with me, Kevin McDonald. It's great to have everybody here. And Rochelle was, I love playing that song when we have musical people on because they kind of rock to the tune anyway. But Rochelle, go ahead and answer that question if you can remember what it was.
Yeah. So thank you, Micah, for asking me a question. I don't think that's ever happened before. Um, I think the main part of it, which I've been building in myself and focusing on the most in my life right now, is patience and vulnerability. Um, First, you have to be patient with yourself. If you're rushing yourself and putting that pressure and the stress of doing something, it's harder to make it happen. Um, and then the vulnerability side is you have to get inside of you. Music doesn't come, I mean, it can come through your head, of course, like things that you may think of or happen, but I think most of music comes from within your soul. It's your emotions, it's kind of how you process. And I kind of thought to myself that same question last night, Micah, when I was looking at this poem. I have not read it since I wrote it. And that was a good 10, 15 years ago for me now. And
Mm-hmm.
realizing out of all the other poems that I had wrote that were absolutely so sad, and then there was that one. Um, it's it all is based off how do you want to feel, right? Music can make us cry, we can be
Mm-hmm.
angry, we can be happy, we can be calm. And I that's kind of one of the questions I've been asking myself now is how do I want this to sound? So still haven't found music for it, and I wish I still had my keyboard because that's the only instrument I have never learned, and I really, really want to. Drums, I have to say, are my favorite though.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to maybe download like a little app on my phone or my computer and see if I can maybe find my own rhythm to go with how I want it to sound. Because believe it or not, you can have two people playing the same instrument. Doesn't always sound the same. So
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that question.
No, thanks for answering. And I love to see how different things make people tick. And
Yeah.
especially once you get into the creative world, there's no limit to how people
Yep.
find inspiration, but also things that people get hung up on that is very unique to them. So it's great for you to be vulnerable and share that with us. Thanks.
Yeah, of
Micah,
course.
do
Thank
you
you.
do you find, Micah, that because you've worked with a lot of people and that the inspiration that people get is really, it's almost like a fingerprint, isn't it? Isn't it kind of like divinely inspired to that individual based upon who they are, their experiences, what they like and stuff. So it changes. There is no commonality or one answer to it all, is there?
Yeah, you're definitely correct. It is so much about who we are, and also at that moment. there are obviously professionals, and like I said, I've done a lot of studio work where I've just had to play piano for this song. They just give me some bass track, and I just have to put piano on it, no chords, no nothing. And at a certain point, I was doing that quite a bit, so I could do that. But if you're writing a song, then it's about everything that has been a part of your life. And it's also about all those limitations too. You'll see different albums for other people all of a sudden be completely new. And some people love that and some people don't as consumers, but that's just life. They're going through so many life changes that all of a sudden this is their new flair, and everything's going to be through that lens at that time.
It's interesting you say that, because so many, if you look at, professional musicians that are out there, pop stars and such, and they're known for a certain type of sound, and then they come up with something that is not what they're known for. And one of two things happens. Either people like that one individual new different thing, but now let's get back to what you normally do, but they like that one little thing, or they completely hate it. If you look back at Olivia Newton-John, who was, popular for these sweet little lovey-dovey songs, that were all, butterflies and birds and that kind of stuff. And, they were sweet and innocent and talked about innocent love. And then she broke out with, let's get physical. And all of a sudden, like, they're like, whoa. And people were just, they didn't know how to deal with it, even though every guy on the planet was already looking at her going, yeah, baby. And then, but as soon as she changed her style, it kind of freaked people out a little bit, and the same thing happened with a bunch of other stars. And then look at Kiss with their hard rock sound. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of this concert, they break out and they just sit down with an acoustic guitar and they're playing Beth, the song Beth. And so, which is just a sweet sound about, being out and having to be on the road and wishing they could be back home with the family and the kids, and apologizing for not being able to do that. But here, completely like, where did that come from? That's not what we're used to. But then all of a sudden you get to understand the heart and soul of the individual who's doing the performing, and they bring something new to the table. And I think that insight into people that comes through their music it can really be enlightening, and like this whole conversation, the direction of it is going, in how music really connects us to who we are.
Yes, for sure. And I think in that same line of thought, you have two different business mindsets too for professional musicians. And in the side of Kiss, you have they're always painted, and they actually have it so that if people want to continue it, they could play exactly the same way they did and keep it going. And and you would know, but you wouldn't know who is being replaced all the time. It would be those characters. And then you have the opposite side, which would be like Taylor Swift, who has always written since the time she was 12, specific for her.
This has been
specific for her.
Anyway, go ahead.
She's always written songs specific for her age at that moment. And I think that's why so many people connected with her music, because it's not always about us. It's about, she's just genuinely showing what she's going through, and through every single stage of her life so far. And
there are always people who can relate to it.
Exactly. Because each of those stages, so many have gone through that. Exactly.
Yeah. But what she has a rare ability to do is to audibilize it and to put it to music and to make it work. I mean, it's like the song, why don't you just calm down? Or or the what's the other one is why are you so mean? See, Rochelle, I can picture you having somebody that was mean to you, and you go home, you know how to write, you know how to play your guitar, and then to say, why are you so mean? And it just comes out, and which is how her songs come across.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is. I'm amazed at people like you that are musicians, and do you write it all? Can you, of course you can if you chose to, right?
So yeah, I've gone through a few stages of writing stuff, and then this last stage actually has been really interesting because it kind of follows my whole path. You know, I've done things for myself, I've enjoyed it, I've learned how to express it, and then I'm like, wow, really some of my greatest strength is teaching. And I've been able to work with a few people, and I'm probably turning it into a program about helping people write love songs for their loved ones and people who don't think that they're musicians. And because I have all the skills to write the music, but a lot of people have those hiccups. But I can't write you a song without, complete communication with you of what you want, what style, those exact moments. What are you trying to express? And a lot of people don't actually go through all of that in their mind enough to write a good poem or a love letter or anything like that. So they have all these problems communicating their romance, essentially. And being able to break through some of that is been a really cool experience with the few people I've done it so far.
That's awesome.
Well, I want to ask you, because I get this a lot from musicians. It's like, I'll say, where did you come up with that? They'll say, I don't know. It just happened. It was just here. Now I take that as being music is divinely inspired, and it just kind of shows up in your lap. Do you find that to be true?
So what's the phrase? That luck is where preparation meets expectation or something like that. Yes. So I believe in that. So you never know when inspiration is going to come, but if you don't have a practiced outlet for it, it's not going to show up correctly. So I always tell people, if they want, creativity is definitely a practice that you can work at and get better at from day one of learning music or writing or speaking or anything like that. The creativity, you have to practice the boring parts all the time. And then when the creativity inspiration strikes, you can actually get it out correctly so that it's expressed the way you want it to be. So it's both sides for sure.
I'd say there's so much release in music and what you can do with it. It just, instead of talking about it or writing it down or typing it out, it's actually expressing it completely and accepting it, acknowledging it, and turning it into something powerful. So that's awesome. I love that you do what you do.
Music does so much for so many people in so many ways, and like I said, it's good medicine for the soul and the mind and the body. And I really like how you make those connections. And so I would ask you, when you are going to work with somebody who wants to learn an instrument, how do you help them to find that inspiration to go on when their fingers start hurting on the strings of the guitars before the calluses develop, or the people that just can't get their hands and their feet to move, properly and coordinate when they're trying to learn the piano and all of that stuff? How do you get them past those points of frustration?
So I try not to get there to start. That's the goal. But my process is fairly simple, not always easy, but simple. And it starts with belief. I have to work through those limiting beliefs first, because the second anything problematic comes up, those limiting beliefs come up and they're like, oh, I give up. I can't actually do it. I knew it. Those type of things. So I have to work through those first. And then it comes down to goals. Goals are my next biggest thing, because, I decided very early on I wasn't going to be a rock star. So that shaped everything I was doing past that. And if I didn't have that goal, if I had that goal, I should say, then everything would be disappointing and all of that because my life wasn't going in that direction. I wanted it to go in a different one. So I made a new goal and I could learn the things I wanted to. So in that way, they need to know why they're doing it. And the why is what really keeps you going through those tricky parts. And then I break my music up into like a lot of categories where we don't learn rhythm and sheet music and all these different things at once. We work on them at separate times because if you are trying to do anything, and if you're doing them multiple things at the same time, you're gonna fail because people are really bad at multitasking. So you have to start having one of them become muscle memory so that it can do it on its own, and then you can do other things at the same time. Even with our sip and strum class, we'll do strumming with no chords, just strumming like this. And then people are like, oh, this is so easy. And I'm like, oh, what's, 15 minus 7 and then add 8. And they have to stop to think about that. And I'm like, you shouldn't have to stop. This is really easy. You just keep it going. But trying to strum nothing and talk at the same time is just too much at the beginning, which is why we always break it up. So if you do that in the right way with the right expectations, people don't tend to get overwhelmed by how much it is all at once. It's when they try to rush that it becomes a problem.
And that's the frustration I think we all have, where we think we need to be at a certain point by now. Like, why haven't I achieved this by this point? And that is always a frustration. I used to draw a lot when I was younger. And over the years, as I've aged, I became more impatient. So when I put pencil to paper, I'm like, why isn't it done yet? I've already envisioned it. I can't. It's not happening. And I realized, I've become impatient with myself, and then I've actually, ruined myself for being able to be creative. And so I've had to step back, and reevaluate now, and kind of change the way I think of things. I know we've got to take a commercial break. Our final commercial break, and I'm going to let Kevin lead us out into that. We are Positive Talk Radio with Kevin McDonald. Myself, I'm John Verica, and we've got Brichelle here as well. And we are speaking to the musical talents of Micah Blake. I are a broadcaster. Take us out, Kevin.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
You're listening to... Oops, that's... I still need that producer is what I need. So, Mike, I got to ask you, you're a musician of note. You do some great stuff, but there's one thing that I don't understand how it actually even works. How does a human being take their left foot and their right foot, have them move independently of their right hand and their left hand, and play an instrument and then sing? It's called playing the drums and singing at the same time.
Or guitar or a piano.
ADHD.
A piano or guitar's easier. I could do that, but I can't get my hands and my feet to move independently of one another because they tend to do kind of in you. How does that even work?
It's all comes down to muscle memory. So if you can, there's so many things just a part of your body right now that are functioning on their own without you ever having to think about it. And if you can just add, that little bit at a time, that one part of your body, your left foot is at a certain rhythm and it keeps going and going. And then you can add more things onto that. It's that same step, just multiplied multiple times. I have an issue with playing an organ. So if you have an organ, you have the keys, you have an extra set of keys for different reasons. There's a whole bunch of levers that change the sound. Usually you don't play with those too much. And then instead of having pedals like a piano, you can actually play essentially the bass notes on your feet. So not only do you have to press it with the right time, the right melody, you also have to know like where you're at with your feet without just looking down at them. And that is very tricky for me. I just haven't done it enough to even get that muscle memory in there, but it all comes down to that.
Well, that's amazing. So, John, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you do online teaching?
I do a lot of pre-recorded classes that I actually have for free right now, because I like to, my main job is working with people one-on-one through these bigger programs like the songwriting and stuff.
That makes a lot of sense, because my wife and I recently received my great aunt's grand piano, a baby grand piano.
Oh, wow.
And neither of us play, and we're thinking of taking lessons. And so I'm like, I wonder how much she costs. But if we can do something online, that would be gorgeous. I would love to take this thing back to, it was built in 1907. The movement is from 1896, I think. So it's a beautiful old piece, and we're like, this thing doesn't deserve to be sitting here silent. So we want to learn to play. We've had it tuned multiple times. They had to do it in increments because it hadn't been touched in 45 years. Wow. So they finally got it tuned up, and then replaced the one string that did pop when they did it. So it's ready. It's just now we got to get us ready. But it's music is a wonderful thing. It's been a big part of my life, my wife's life. We've managed to work with musicians over the years. My great uncle, who actually played guitar, mandolin, banjo, ukulele, and a couple of other things with Tommy Dorsey's band and Gene Krupa's band. And I found out, and I didn't know this, that my paternal grandfather also played. He passed away when my father was still young, and I never heard anything good about him because he'd abandoned the family. He was an alcoholic and all that stuff. And he passed away young. But I learned later on in life that he also was a musician, and he and his brother, who was my uncle that I knew played with the bands, used to be pickup artists when the big bands would come to New York. They would sit in and play, the string instruments. And they would get paid at the end of the night. And my uncle stayed sober, but my grandfather went and got drunk, and he wouldn't show up for the next night. So he was unreliable, but my uncle actually made a career out of it.
Welcome to being a musician.
That's so true. So true. And
that's why producers are the glue that holds it all together.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So music plays a wonderful role in everyone's life, and what you're doing out there with helping people to find that musicality within themselves, to branch out and to try to learn to produce music of their own. That is just a wonderful thing. And I'm so glad that you are out there doing it, and that you came on our show to talk about it. Thank
you so much. And if I want to summarize essentially what my philosophy is on music, it's about not thinking about it in the big picture, because we all are going to view it in a different way, personalized to ourselves. And you can find that by playing an instrument at your level. You don't have to go pro. You don't have to get to a certain level that your guitar teacher wants you to. Just learn what you want to learn, and you're going to get so many benefits from it. I would believe that so many medications could be bypassed just by learning to have that peace and relaxation from learning music. Obviously, talk to your doctor before stopping them. But,
or just
be liable for that.
Yeah. And by the way, we've run out of time. But Micah, if somebody wants to contact you again, how do they do it?
Best way is just through my website. Lots of so speakingmusic.online. You can learn all kinds of stuff for free on there, but you can also just message me straight from there.
And Rochelle has 2 weeks, and 2 weeks from today, and then she has to come up with a song for the poem she wrote.
Okay, Kevin. I'll set a goal.
Wow.
I'm excited for you, Micah, to have someone in your class who says, I want to learn the organ, because then you'll have to too, and we'll both be challenged.
That's true. That is true.
And
No pressure at all, folks.
I want to thank John Verico for being here, and Rochelle and Micah Blake, and go to his website again, which is again
Speakingmusic.online.
And thank you for being here. You'll have to come back and teach us some. Well, get the ukuleles out and you can teach us.
Yeah, we'll do a whole sip and strum right online, all of us.
Yep.
Sounds great.
I agree.
That was great. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time on Positive Talk. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because